You ever have one of those moments that slice right through the middle of your life? Like everything before it exists in one color kind of muted and everything after burns in sharp, painful focus. That's what happened to me a month ago inside a high-end hotel ballroom in Massachusetts, right at my little sister's wedding. My name's Nora Carter. I'm 30 years old, and that was the night my father stood up, smiled into a microphone, and decided to destroy me publicly like it was part of his speech. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't expecting a heartfelt toast. My role in this family has always been background decor. The one who helps set up chairs but doesn't sit at the main table. Still, a small, pathetic part of me hoped that maybe, just maybe, he'd remember I existed. I was standing near the back, behind the videographer's tripod, classic me, keeping out of the way. Without thinking, I opened my phone's voice recorder. Reflex really. I record everything: work calls, notes, lectures, risk management kind of thing. Little did I know that instinct would become the start of the story you're hearing right now. My dad, Richard Carter, clinked his fork against a champagne glass. To my daughter, he said, and I swear my heart actually lifted. Then he laughed. Oh, I should say to my only daughter. The room laughed too. Everyone thought he was being clever, charming. Then he pointed vaguely toward me. That one, he said, standing back there, that was just a mistake I made 30 years ago. And that was it. Every conversation stopped. Heads turned. Some people laughed awkwardly, others looked down at their plates. No one stopped him. Not one person told him to shut up. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just looked him dead in the eyes, let it burn, and then I walked out. Past the tables, down the stairs, out into freezing rain. My dress stuck to my legs, mascara streaking down, phone still recording in my hand. That night, soaked and shaking under a street light, I promised myself one thing: this was the last time anyone in that family laughed at me without consequences. Revenge doesn't always start with a scream. Sometimes it starts with a phone call. Or 3. Call 1. My father's brother, Stephen Harris, Uncle Steve to me. He used to co-run my dad's company before he retired under mysterious reasons. He answered half asleep, voice full of worry. Nora, I saw the stream cut off. Are you okay? I asked if he'd heard the speech. Your cousin sent the clip, he said quietly. Watched it 3 times. He's completely lost the plot. No, I said. He finally said out loud what he's always believed. I made a recording. I want to know why he's always treated me like a stain he can't scrub out. He hesitated. If you start pulling on threads around Richard Carter, you're not just gonna find mean jokes. You're gonna find things you can't unsee. I breathed out. Then help me see them. Meet me tomorrow. Call 2. My old uni roommate, Lauren Brooks. Now one of the best financial crime lawyers in the state. I didn't even say hello properly. I just sent her the audio file and said, listen, then tell me what I can do with this. Call 3. To myself. Yeah, literally to my own work phone. I left a voicemail logging everything that happened: time, place, witnesses' names, digital evidence protocol. That's what working in cybersecurity does to you. You document everything. Then came the email. I sent it to an address I'd dug up months earlier while checking compliance lists. Something quiet and bureaucratic: integrity at massprocurement.gov. Nothing dramatic. Just an anonymous message asking what a civilian should do if they believe a city contractor, say, Carter Municipal Systems, is cooking the books. Hit send. To 17 a.m. The next morning, Uncle Steve met me at a diner in Quincy. The kind that smells like burnt coffee and fried everything. He looked rough, tired eyes, trembling hands. You really want to open this can? He asked. Already have, I said. He leaned in and spoke in that low voice people use when they know something dangerous. He treats you like that because you're the one person in his life he couldn't control. You said no to joining his empire. You work with hospitals instead of politicians. And that drives him insane. He's been shifting money for years, moving assets to your sister Hannah, faking reports for city contracts. When I called him out, he pushed me out. Then he slid a folder across the table: old board minutes, emails, separation agreements, fraud, bribery, falsified safety reports. You dig into those servers, you'll see what I mean. I stared at the folder. My coffee went cold. And for the first time in my life, I felt something completely new toward my father. Not fear, not sadness, clarity. Lauren read through the papers that afternoon. So, she said, tapping her pen against the table, your father's company runs the city's smart intersection systems. Uncle Steve got booted right before their biggest contract. And here's a threatening email. Sign the agreement and keep quiet, or you'll never work again. Lovely. She looked at me. You said you work in cybersecurity, right? Good. Because this trail will be digital, but nor no illegal hacking, okay? Only legal sources, family records, public files. What Uncle Steve already gave you, I nodded, understood, tiny lie. For weeks my days were full of hospital network audits, my nights, all spreadsheets and procurement PDFs. I cross-referenced every contract Carter Municipal Systems ever got. I compared them to project delays, outages, even a tragic pedestrian death tied to a smart light malfunction. The pattern started screaming back at me. Invoices doubled at the last minute. Friday afternoon cost bumps with no explanation. Consulting fees to shell companies with cheerful names like Blue Meadow Solutions. That didn't exist anywhere except a single P.O. box. You know that feeling when a puzzle starts to click into place bit by sinister bit, that's how it felt. Then I found the shareholder list. My sister owned 25% of the company, me, not even a sliver. But the waiver releasing future claims that was signed by me years earlier. Graduation dinner, I remembered he'd shoved a paper at me mid-toast. Standard estate stuff. Sweetheart, I'd signed without looking. He'd frozen me out legally while smiling over barbecue ribs. I sent it to Lauren, she just muttered, that's coercion gold. 2 weeks later, I got a message from a man named Mark Dalton, Compliance Division. He'd seen my anonymous tip, wanted to talk confidentially. Lauren warned me, if you meet with them, this becomes a whistleblower case. Subpoenas. Press. Your family knowing it's you. You sure about this? My stomach flipped. But all I could see was that ballroom, my father laughing into the mic. He's already painted me as the villain, I said. Might as well earn the title. Soon as that email went out, the whole vibe in my parents' house changed. Yes, I still technically lived in the attic, cheap rent, long commute, lots of ghosts. Suddenly, doors started locking, whispered conversations cut off when I walked in, paranoid energy. Then I saw an email on my father's account, one he thought was private. Old passwords are the death of powerful men. Subject line, family dinner Saturday. Need to bring Nora back in line before she does something stupid. He'd written to my mother and sister. There it was, paperwork ready. Mom replied, are you sure, my sister? Can we not make this a war? Dad, it's already a war, she just doesn't know the rules. When Mom knocked on my door that night with her let's have a nice dinner, sweetie voice, I almost laughed. Sure, I said, I'll be there. Saturday, a private room, white tablecloths, crystal wine glasses. Tension so thick you could butter toast with it. My father smiled like an assassin in a suit. Nora, you look respectable. Thanks, Dad. You look exactly like a man who reuses passwords, I thought, but out loud. I just smiled. After some pointless small talk, he got serious. He slid a manila envelope across the table. Inside a non-disclosure agreement, a nasty one, promising silence forever in exchange for a piddly check. And cheaper rent upstairs. So you want me to sign this? I said, voice calm. So that I can't talk about the time you called me a mistake into a microphone. It was a joke. He snapped. I reached into my purse and laid down my printed transcript of the speech. You sure? Because this says otherwise. Oh, and the videographer's footage backs it up. Plus the copy with the state office. And my lawyer. My mother flinched. My sister looked like she might be sick. My father went red. Enough to power a stoplight. What have you done? He barked. Just collected receipts, I said. I pulled out a small USB stick and placed it on the table. And that, well, let's just say it holds enough to keep auditors very entertained, my sister whispered. You'll destroy everything he's built. He built it on me, I said. I'm just done holding up the foundation. I stood up. Consider this my formal resignation from the role of family scapegoat. As I walked out, he shouted after me, don't do something you can't undo. Without turning back, I said, you should have thought of that before you grabbed the mic. 2 days later, Hannah called. I need to see you. We met at my climbing gym neutral ground. She sat awkwardly on the crash mats, still wearing designer everything. Nora, she said, what are you doing? I could ask you the same, I replied. You laughed. I panicked. She said, tears threatening. It was my wedding, everyone was staring, it was awful. I let her talk, then slid a paper her way. The share registry, 25% in your name, none in mine. Did you know about that? Color drained from her face. He told me you refused the business, that you didn't want anything from him. What I said, I corrected, was I didn't want to work for him. That's not the same as not wanting fairness. She looked ready to crumble. He paid for everything, wedding, grad school, all of it. I thought he was just being kind. He was buying loyalty, I said gently, and punishing me for not being saleable. She hugged her knees. If you go forward, he'll come for you. He'll say you're unstable, jealous. He's been saying that my whole life, I said. Now I've got proof. She hesitated. Mom keeps some of his papers locked in her office drawer at work, she whispered. Financial stuff, city letters, she's terrified he'll find them. Why tell me if you're not helping me? I asked. She gave a sad half smile. Who says I'm not? I just can't look like I am my mother. Linda Carter, assistant superintendent, queen of avoidance. Her office smelled like lemon polish and guilt. When I arrived, she looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. This really isn't a good time. She started. I shut the door. There's never a good time to admit your husband might be a criminal. But let's try anyway. Her mouth tightened. Watch your tone. I talked to Hannah, I said. She told me about your drawer. Her hand twitched toward it reflexively and I knew Hannah hadn't lied. You had no right, she began. You had no right, I cut her off. To stand there that night and let him tear me apart in front of everyone. Or to sign documents that stole my chance at anything close to equal. The fight drained right out of her. You don't understand. He runs everything. If I push, he threatens the house, our savings. You think marriage gives you choices, it doesn't. Not with him. You're right, I said quietly. I don't know what being married to him feels like, but I know what growing up under him feels like. Which is worse. She stared at her desk, then whispered, open the drawer. Inside, years of buried secrets, letters from city auditors, warnings about irregularities, statements transferring business funds into my sister's trust, withdrawals from my own college account to cover mysterious emergencies, and stapled to one letter my signed waiver. Attached note in my father's handwriting. Once this is signed, she's off the table legally. Focus on H's stake. She's the future. My mother went pale. I didn't see that note before. You saw enough, I said softly. She sat back. What are you going to do? I already spoke with investigators. And now I'm taking this folder to them. She squeezed her eyes shut. He's going to lose everything. He should have thought of that before he sold everything, including his family, for profit. After a long silence, she said, if I give a statement, maybe they'll go easier on me. That's the first honest thing you've said today, I murmured. Write it down. About 2 months later, everything exploded. I was midway through teaching a phishing awareness session at a hospital, when my phone started vibrating nonstop, buzzing across the floor. Like a possessed wasp, messages, dozens, mom, dad, Hannah, even distant cousins. My group chat was blowing up. What did you do? They froze the accounts. Call your father now. A push notification popped up. City suspends contracts with Carter Municipal Systems. Pending fraud investigation. There was his photo, my father, stone-faced, walking into the Attorney General's office. I stepped out to the stairwell, heart racing, checked voicemail. Dad, furious, you destroyed our family over a joke. Delete. Mom, sobbing, asking me to claim she didn't know about the papers. Delete slower. Hannah, voice trembling, they froze my trust. Reporters keep calling me. I need to understand. Nora, please. I just stared at the phone and exhaled. This was the cost of truth. He requested to meet through his lawyer. Small conference room, polished table. Him and his attorney, me and Lauren across. You did this, he said flatly. No, I said you did. He gestured angrily. You turned a family disagreement into a legal circus, fraud and bribery. Aren't disagreements, Dad, I said. They're crimes. You just used family as cover. He leaned in. When they tell this story, you'll be the ungrateful daughter who destroyed everything. I raised my eyebrows. You've been rewriting my story my whole life. The only difference now is that I finally get to keep the pen in the end. He took a plea, fraud, false safety reports, bribery, the works. Prison time, reduced with cooperation. The company contracts were stripped. Uncle Steve managed to buy back a small legitimate branch under strict oversight. Mom avoided charges but had to resign quietly from her district job. She started therapy, good for her. Honestly, Hannah lost her condo and savings but eventually found her footing again. The day she turned up at my climbing gym in an old t-shirt and borrowed shoes, she just said, you were right. I didn't need to be right. I told her. I just needed someone to believe me. I moved out of that attic finally. Tiny apartment, sunlight everywhere. Silence I didn't have to tiptoe around. I kept my cybersecurity job but started volunteering on the side, helping small whistleblowers encrypt their evidence before officials could intimidate them. Kind of poetic justice. And the wedding recording. It lives in one short clip in my training sessions about emotional abuse and financial crime. I don't play the whole thing. He doesn't deserve that kind of airtime. Just enough to remind people how easily cruelty hides behind a laugh. People sometimes ask if I regret it exposing him, breaking the family apart. But here's the truth. You can't destroy what was never whole. We weren't a family. We were a PR statement held together by fear, money, and my father's ego. Pulling the thread didn't break the family, it freed me from its grip. Blood makes you related, but respect, honesty, those are what make you family. And if you've ever sat on the edges of a party smiling while someone from your own bloodline made you the punchline, you know what that moment of choice feels like. Choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. It's the first act of self-respect. So if standing up for yourself meant losing the people who trained you to stay quiet, would you still do it if saying enough meant walking out into the rain with nothing but truth in your pocket, would you? Because I did. And I'd do it again. You've been listening to Revenge Diary. If Nora's story hit somewhere deep in you, if you've ever felt like the mistake who refused to stay erased, share this with someone who needs that same fire in their chest. And don't forget to subscribe, because there are more stories of truth, grit, and sweet poetic justice waiting for you right here. Until next time, keep your receipts, trust your gut, and never let anyone tell you your voice doesn't matter.